Hey, I'm Aaron Bradley, and this is Consume the Good. This show is about asking better questions about how we buy, what we build, and the kind of impact we leave behind. Each episode, I'll be sitting down with founders, entrepreneurs, operators, and thoughtful humans who are challenging the way things are done. These people are rethinking old models, finding new ways to lead their business, proving that profit and purpose don't have to be fighting against each other. So if you're hungry for honest conversations about ethical business, conscious consumption, and leading with conviction, then you're in the right place. I'm glad you're here. Let's dive in.
So early on in my business journey, I picked up a book called Chapter 1, written by Daniel Flynn. And he's the co-founder of Thank You, a social enterprise that's challenging the way business works in a traditional sense and consumerism in general. Their company has directed millions of dollars towards ending extreme poverty, and it's done through a really unique social enterprise model. Daniel is what I would call a bold entrepreneur, a storyteller, and a powerful leader. In this conversation, we've explored lots of things around purpose, persistence, innovation, and what it takes to go up against the status quo. So it's a great combo. Hope you enjoy, and let's get into it.
I just want to say I'm a huge fan, and I brought my rusty old torn book because I bought this. When did you release this book? I must have been that year.
So we are coming up to 10 years in January.
Wow.
February.
I must have bought this I reckon 10 years ago. Or is that when
Yeah.
the book came out? Yeah. I reckon I bought that 10 years ago, 9 years ago. Like when you launched, I was like, I'm going to get that. That's these guys. You've had quite the journey. I've read about it in your book and just been watching from the sidelines really, and been a proud fan and supporter of Thank You for a long time. And yeah, so we're keen to really just talk about some of those experiences you've had, some of the learnings you've had, and I'm hoping that your listeners can extract that information from your brain and apply it to their own lives and have some awesome wins as well. So
Awesome.
yeah, it's going to be good.
I'm in.
So yeah, going into a little bit your journey building this business, maybe just bring us right back to the start. Why did you start this? Where did all that come from? Where did it start for you?
Yeah, look, for me, there's a genesis moment I often reference where I'm sitting in front of my computer doing some research for a uni assignment. But before I get into that moment, prior to that, I was studying, interestingly, construction management with this dream of building skyscrapers. So I wanted to be a project manager, property developer. And I had taken that course because I thought I really wanted to know the intricate process of construction. And I had chosen my path. So I thought, here I am doing some research, and this is completely left of field. A number pops up saying that 900 million people in our world don't have access to clean water. And I click into that, and it said 4,500 children die every day from waterborne disease.
Wow.
And I remember thinking, like, I knew poverty existed, but that is a really hard number to read. And it's the next layer down of watching kids who literally, they showed the water that they used to collect or still collect. It's a filthy brown water, but then some of them talked about their brothers and sisters dying from the water that was collected. And so I have this moment where I'm literally sitting in front of my computer, tears streaming down my face, being like, I am moved. And I think I'm uncomfortable because I'm thinking, if that was me, then my sisters Jess and Mel, imagine that.
Yeah, wow.
Imagine me telling someone, oh yes, here's where I used to collect water, and apparently my sisters died from waterborne disease. And so I'm at uni with like literally big dreams. And then I'm watching this thing go down going, how do we live in a world where we're all okay with this? That this still happens every single day. And there was this feeling of actual overwhelm, like 900 million is a big number. But then I saw another number that said we spent $50 billion a year on bottled water. And that was like this, that is so wrong. And why could one number not serve the other? Could we get the money from there, from this ridiculous product that shouldn't exist? Could we get it to righting this wrong?
Yeah.
People not having access to clean water. And that began the Thank You journey.
Wow. That's insane. And yeah, those numbers are large, but I think just touching on that a little bit, like there's a lot of people that get bombarded with these numbers. There's charities at the supermarkets sometimes. You get ads left, right and centre, real heavy TV commercials and things. And it's just almost like, oh, avoid. Oh, it's heavy. I can't stomach it almost. And or I've seen, I guess, the other approach maybe is just like, oh, another number, but no actual connection to what that really means in the actual people. Why do you think you were impacted so much by that? Anyone else might have just browsed by it.
So it's a good question. And the technical term that people are using is this thing called charity fatigue or cause fatigue. It's a real thing. And apparently post-pandemic, it's at its highest. We're bombarded with global issues, local issues, and it's probably never been harder to live in most Western contexts recently anyway. Cost of living crisis, there's a lot of challenges that we're facing. So the overwhelm is real. At that point in my life, I was asking big questions like, why am I here? What's my purpose? And so this moment is really an overlay into me searching for that sense of like, what am I meant to do? I was on my own big faith journey. I was on my own like career, what am I meant to focus on journey?
You were 19, right?
Yeah. And interestingly, if this gives more context, at 12, a guy my dad mentored through uni said to my dad, if your son wants any mentoring, I'd be open for it. And I went and caught up with him, and he was a property developer. And so from 12, I was literally catching up with someone who'd talk about how property deals are done, and I was fascinated.
So you were well and truly on that path by 19. It wasn't like, oh, here's the start of my idea. Like
no, I was so convinced by 19. Like, this is it. My head's been in the game since I was 12.
Sounds like you're like 5 years ahead a little bit.
Maybe. My mum and dad often say that on all topics. Like about 5 years ahead. And a thank you sometimes. Like most things. In fact, what we're launching next year has been 5 years in the making.
Oh, wow.
5 years ago, we're like, how hard could that be? And then we discover it. Right. But me at 19, I was convinced, but also searching.
Yeah.
And so I get bombarded like you and I do. And I think what I've learned to do is have moments in my life or week where I'm like, okay, I'm going to let myself look or read. There's an email that a few of us at Thank You get. It's really confronting, and it is not the news as we all see it, which is sensationalized on a couple of topics. It's also what's happening in the world. And you read about some pretty big atrocities going down through the developing countries, and reading this email is heavy, but it is an important read. I don't read it every day, but I do, and I let myself sit with it because I think without that, the world won't change.
Yeah, and it's like probably coming a little bit of a curiosity of what's going on out there. I assume, but is it like what's going on out there that I can fix as well for you, like that lens, I guess? Yeah.
It's interesting when you look at a number like 900 million people. And so right now there is 916 or 17 million people living in extreme poverty. So for context, if you're in extreme poverty, you're living on less than $2.15 a day.
Wow.
You will have issues like no access to school for the kids, or education is a huge threat. Safety is a huge threat. We've got around 40 million people trapped in slavery right now. You'll find that overlay with extreme poverty. Food, healthcare, like you are in dire straits as a family. It's a real position to be in. Now you can look at 900 million people and you think, well, that's too big a problem. But if you zoom out, in the 80s, that number was 3 billion. In the 90s, we're down to 2. Right now, we're down to the last 10% of people in the world. Right, so there is hope. And then another number we look at Thank You, which is where the whole organization has come from, is that while 900 million people are in extreme poverty, together as consumers, from coffees to hand washers to home loans, when you combine our spend, it's $83 trillion a year. And that's where we see hope. We're like, the money's here. Like, we just got to figure out how to reorganize. Like, how do we get some of this?
Yeah, you've got some people who have got maybe too much money in some ways, where they're just don't know what to do with it, or invest it in whatever. But you're challenging the whole concept of consumerism as we know it, aren't you? Like, it's going up against big global systems of how things are done. And I assume along your journey, you've had people let you know that and be like, you can't change that.
Yeah.
All the time.
Consistent. Sure. Yeah, consistent from the beginning and still to this day. Like when we step into a new category, It is, yeah, it is. But I think that goes with changing anything. One of the good tells that you may actually be onto something is when people give you that push before. You don't stand a chance.
Yeah.
You know, no one's been able to do that, or it's impossible.
Yeah.
I often that piques my interest.
Yeah, I want to get into that. Actually, you touched on my next section, because boldness is one thing. We'll get to that later. Like, I watch your journey, I just see a lot of boldness in facing adversity and things like that. But I guess a part of that as well is, just your relentlessness. Like, I was reading your book and I'm just like, man, give these guys a break. They're just trying to launch something good. And I'm reading all these stories of just setbacks that are just like not even avoidable and not even foreseeable. And I'm just, what? Like, is this really going to work? Like, I'm reading this going, is this really going to work out for them? And I was on the edge of my seat. And
Wow.
is that, I don't know, like I guess I was baffled by the amount of setbacks you had. And like, how do you keep showing up? Like, everyone's screaming at you, no, not everyone. I'm sure you had a team and family and things, but like, the world essentially is saying that's not going to work and here's another roadblock. Like, how do you keep showing up
Yeah.
despite all that?
Yeah, I'm fascinated that you've pulled the word relentless out, because we've got a big internal project at the moment looking at the brand and looking at all the DNA, and this word relentless has just come through. So some people have come from the outside in and they're like, man, you guys are relentless on every level in our story, how we think about product and procurement, and how we think about many things. And so we've been talking about a bit of like, where does this come from? And just a spoiler alert or a tease, maybe chapter 2. I wrongly assumed post the launch of this, chapter 2, it won't really have the loads. It'll just be like hi. And I kid you not, you'll be shocked. I'm shocked. It got harder and harder. And thank you was nearly taken out again and again.
Wow.
And
So you're looking at chapter 1 going, oh, that was easy.
that was kindergarten. Like, I'm not even,
Okay. Yeah.
be the
Well,
judge.
maybe for you, kindergarten, someone else reading goes,
Well, no,
whoa.
sorry.
So you're building that skill or that.
Yeah.
Right, where it's-
Thank you for clarifying. Kindergarten in comparison to what came next.
Yeah.
Right? I read that and I'm like, that was a lot. But what came next and what we're still living through is really tough. And I think it is, relentlessness is like a muscle that you build, and it is mission critical. In fact, they say in leadership, the most valuable trait in a leader isn't articulation, which is, some would say that's important, but it's this concept of grit,
Yeah.
stickability, the ability to stick at a process. And so for us, and for me personally, grit comes from a deep place.
Yeah.
So it comes from seeing a vision of what could be, and literally I can't unsee it. And so there's a part of me that goes, I look at those two numbers. I look at the amount of money we've raised, which is incredible, and also doesn't even register against that $83 trillion number.
Yeah.
And I can't unsee the potential. So that's a drive. But then even more personal, you mentioned friends and family around, like without a co-founder, Justine, now wife, then girlfriend, Jared, who was with us for over a decade and finished up about 7 years ago. But like that without those people around, we wouldn't be here. Thank you. One of our values is we never walk alone. And it's because alone, I think you can be taken out. I picture kind of the jungle or the savannah and a prowling lion. And as a group, it will struggle to take one of you out, but on your own, you're vulnerable. And for me, I haven't walked alone. Great friends, great family, great mentors. Some who were deeply encouraging where I'm like, I want to quit. This is too hard. Others, in fact, early on after some of the first setbacks where we had the recalls and we had distributors going bankrupt and we had all these issues, I literally went to a mentor and I said to him, it's too hard. Like this happened and this happened. And I was giving him this almost victim story of, look, like, woe is me. And he literally said, sounds like you need to toughen up. Welcome.
Eat some concrete, basically.
Welcome to the real world. Welcome to business.
Wow.
And so I was like, I actually left that catch up. In my head, I was like, wrong mentor. This guy's a monster. And later, about 9 months later, I caught up with him again. I said, hey, the reason we haven't caught up is I didn't want to. I didn't like what you said.
Yeah.
But you were right. So this has been a learning of, if you want to change stuff, you are going to come up against it. If you don't want to change status quo, if If you're happy to play the game, play how everyone else is playing, you'll have problems, not that big. If you want to go against that, that's when the...
Because I guess when you're going against something like that concept or that system or whatever, you're threatening other people's sometimes big businesses or livelihoods or whatever. So maybe is that where the pushback's usually from? Other people in the industry, or is it even just like doubters, naysayers, like people just like kind of...
Yeah, I mean, I think there's like...
not believing on the same level, you know?
Pushbacks at every level too, because we are... for those that don't know, thank you. We have no shareholders, no investors. Our business is owned 100% by a charitable trust. And so as beautiful as that sounds, it means you are entering a market where it is a playing field against people that have very, very high access to capital and money. Their teams and people may be incentivized through those structures of equity or bonuses or really good salaries. And you're up against sort of this motley crew who are like, we don't have any money behind us. We've got a bit of passion, a bit of grit and a mission, and we're on and we're never going to stop. And so that unmatched thing does pop its head up often. At the same time, though, it is a great strength.
Yeah, I was going to say that's almost like another superpower maybe that they can't tap into as easily if they don't have that, you know, like the other bigger industries, maybe they don't have that kind of mission that's actually strong. Maybe it's more of a self-serving kind of mission or whatever. So it's harder to get people on board and going hard. Whereas I've seen, and I'll touch on that later, but like your team are just like they're engaged, they're on board, like they're not just here for the paycheck.
No, definitely. And interestingly, innovation comes from often limitation. And so too much money is literally a trap, because you're like, oh, well, we'll just fund it. And if you have a lot of money, you can fund a lot of average ideas and do okay. If you have no money, average ideas won't work. So the only ideas that will work have to be truly remarkable, as in worthy of remark, that other people will remark on your behalf. Go out and tell people for you.
Yeah, it's a good little analogy. I mean, that's probably what the word means, but I never... You spelling that out, I was like, oh yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, and so our best ideas have come from restriction, and the bigger we get, it's a real interesting tension to make sure we keep that innovation alive.
Let's dig into that more, because that's definitely a huge thing. Oh, before we go on to that, like your relentlessness, would you say for you, it's that purpose and that number that you can't see that drives that? What would you say to someone that's like, I want to be more like, because there's a lot of business owners out there that have, even just being in a small business, there's a lot of roadblocks, there's a lot of things going against it, especially if you want to do something well or bring some kind of change, like you said. What would you say to those people who are like, they want to build that skill, they want to build that muscle of like relentless?
I am not a triathlete. Kind of wish I was. Like, you bump into the people, I'm not sure if you ever have, they run a business and they're a triathlete. I'm like, come on, man.
Yeah, it's
unreal. I am not. But I feel like the analogy of exercise starts to kick in here, because if there is a gap between where you want to be and where you are, it's going to take a lot of grit to get there. And literally that is about taking the next step and the next step and then building up that strength. And so for someone to want to run a triathlon, marathon, or whatever it looks like, yes, there is a training and there's that relentless, like I have to get up and go again when I don't feel like it. So in other words, for businesses, like there's a gap, we have to close it. Try an idea, didn't work, get up, go again. Try another idea. It didn't work either. Maybe we should just lower the target and get up and go again. Get up and go again.
Yeah.
So there's that element. I think though, personally, there's another layer below that. Because what gets me up to go again isn't just a number. That is part of the story. But it's also like, this is the deep stuff, what drives you. And what drives each of us, our purpose is very, probably personal. It's for you, or certainly for me, family has become a huge driver. People said, when you have kids, it'll change you. And it did. Now I'm like, we've got Jed, we've got our daughter River, and we've got Arlo, newborn, 6-week-old.
Yeah, congrats, man.
Thanks, man.
That's awesome.
This is like the most talking I've done since the birth. I'm worried words won't come out, but so sleep deprived. But the like family and what does the world look like for them and for the world they're growing up into, that drives me. My faith journey and my wrestle with why am I here and what do I believe, that has, if you were to say you should go get another job, or even if the actual pay we get just got cut, the bit I couldn't walk away from is that I now feel like this is my calling. This I think this is what I'm meant to do.
Did you know that from the start, do you think? Or
Well, no, I thought I was going to be property developer and building
Yeah.
big
So,
big
yeah,
towers, and
Yeah.
I've wrestled with that, and
Yeah.
even to this day, I'm deeply, I sort of believe this is, but there are days I have doubts on
Yeah.
that too.
What would you say to the person who's thinking, I don't know what my calling is. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I hear that a lot. Would you say, what would you say to them?
Well, I'd say you need to focus on answering that question, going on a path to discovering that. And so I feel like I asked that question, interestingly, to go back from 12 when I was around 6 or 7, maybe 7, I got first introduced to a business book. And I got really interested in it. And I grew up in a church faith context where there was this idea thrown around that God knows the plans he has for you. So I grew up hearing that. And so my next thought was, wonder what the plans for me are. So people were like, man, you just knew straight away at 19. Nah, at 19 I was wrestling. A question I was wondering since I was like, as long as I can remember.
But you were wrestling rather than ignoring.
Totally.
Is that,
Yeah. Or running around saying to people, I just don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
and maybe is there an element of trial, like you starting that process, taking those first few steps, like a year or two later, did it become more solidified? Oh, nah, this is it for me. Like, or
Yeah, totally. I mean, my childhood and teenage years are littered with failed ideas, from car washing businesses where my friends quit the business because they didn't want to work for me, to selling gobstoppers and yabbies at school. I got into that. I was like, but then I ate my profit. Literally, the gobstoppers, I ate the profit. The yabbies died. Super cruel to talk about that, and I'm really sorry about that.
Yeah.
And then in high school, I was really interested. I thought maybe in investing, and then I was looking at currency trading and all of these random importing phones from Europe. Collected money, sent money over there. Turned out I got scammed like $1,400, which was all my hard-earned McDonald's money.
Oh, brutal.
Convinced a group of friends at school.
So you had some early on tough lessons, it sounds like.
So many, man. Bunch of friends, we all went fruit picking in Gundagai. We all got kind of scammed in that. And so I was trying all these things. I was like, I'm reading, there's obviously something to do with money and business, maybe. But I would say to people, you feel passionate about something, go volunteer.
Yeah.
Stop making excuses to start the journey, to ask why. Why are you here? Why are we here? Good questions.
So you're like, I don't know. I feel like there's maybe some people that they just want to try and think hard enough to work it out.
Yeah.
But is there an element like, nah, just go do something and just try some things. Like if you got a little nudge or a little leaning towards something, just go for it and then wrestle with it as you go and then be like, nah, this is not it. Go something else. Like, is it a little bit of that, like what you're saying with your
I think
experience?
it's almost like we have to go back to being children. Children play. They just play. They may not know how to play with that or how to build that, but they'll get out there and they'll just start playing. And I think the older we get, we stop playing.
Yeah.
We stop playing with ideas. We're afraid of what other people would think. What if I lose my job? We have all these reasons why we can't play. My main job, even at Thank You, is to play again and to play with ideas and in new categories and
So good. And just play a little bit devil's advocate here. The person I'm just working this 9-to-5 job for this big corporation that's just greedy and all about making money. How can I have a purpose in this? Like it's just rocking up and basically a slave to the man or to the system. Like what would you say to those people that are thinking that? Like how do they find their purpose in that?
Yeah. I mean, my first reaction to that is, and it's funny because I do a little bit of public speaking up and I'll share our story. And once in Sydney, I said, I believe we can each do something remarkable. This guy at the back of the room yells out, I'm going to quit my job. And the CEO up the front yells out, that's not the point of the session. And I'm standing there like,
I'm not going to get invited back here.
this is awkward. And I reflected on that moment. I was like, often we think to change the world, to make a difference, to find your purpose, you have to quit your job. And maybe you do. But my first challenge would be, what can you do within what's in your hand to make an impact on those around you already? And so, for example, in that big corporate working is there a new initiative you're bringing? Is there a different way you're thinking? Is there something within that context that can impact our local community in the world? Also, I would not discount the fact that paycheck you get, what difference is that making from maybe it's the family you're supporting, and that is truly noble. to the difference you can make with the tiny amounts of money that you can give. Like, I think we all want our job to be our purpose. We would love the concept of it to be that, and it can be for some, but I think that is too narrow.
Yeah, like we can't all start brands like Thank You, because there would be way too many. You know, we need workers, we need people that are going to show up and grind it out. But I guess maybe there's also an element of like, how are you showing up to your work, and are you checked out of life, or are you like showing up and being present and engaging with the people around and giving that little bit of presence or love or whatever it is for you that fills you up? Like
100%. Like, I think we underestimate our role as people helping other people. And that co-worker sitting next to you or making coffee next to you, how are you doing today? And they're not good, and then you're there and you're able to help them. Like, we've got to not miss the human experience at the little and the micro level. And in fact, Thank You, as big as it sort of appears, it really is just a series of micro little things. Small steps, big change.
Well, I've had a little bit of a similar experience where, like in coffee and making coffee, like sometimes you get people that are just not into you. They're not into it. They're just like, I'm here to find a reason to complain. I'm here to, I'm here to make your life hard. And you can see it on their face. You can see it in the way they talk to you, whatever. And I remember this one example. There was this lady that just really wanted to find something. I could tell. And I was like, I'm going to make it my goal to like stoke her out so hard that she's just frothing by the end of this experience. It was such a short, simple moment. But like, I was very tempted to just be like, stuff this person. Give them bare minimum, like, whatever, get out of here, we don't like you anyway. That's like natural instincts kicking in. I was like, nah, I'm going to like flip the script a little bit and just make sure every little detail of her experience was perfect as much as I could. And extra friendly smiles, eye contact smiles, like, what are you up to, like all that stuff. And then by the end, she had like, her frown had flipped and she was like, this is great, I'll be back, I'm going to tell my friends.
So good.
But it was like such a small thing. It's like, I'm not, in that occasion, I'm just making coffee, and I was like, I'm not changing global poverty right now, but I'm showing up to those little things. I think such a often overlooked. We always want to have this big, I've got to fix everything, the whole world.
There's an interesting saying, those that, some may be familiar with this, those that can be trusted with a little can be trusted with a lot. And so I think people that end up changing a lot in the world, usually the consistency of their life, it's actually a series of like very, very small decisions and the way that their true integrity. And then we all see people that rise quickly don't have that. And then it all falls apart. And that's really shocking to watch. And the world doesn't need more of that. So I think there is a real job to be done for all of us of like showing up as our best self in those moments, making a difference where we can with what's in our hand, people around us, and in time that may scale.
That's so good. Awesome. Out of all those setbacks, if you're saving some of these for chapter 2, you don't have to say.
No,
but
let's go.
What's been the hardest, like what's been the lowest point or like the hardest point of your whole journey so far?
The hardest point. I mean, in chapter 1, you pick up, there's a relentless, like it just continues almost to the point that as you read it, as we live it, it's like, surely not another issue. And I think the theme that's really resonated the whole time is when people don't see the vision. And that's popped up from like reporters who, I remember news.com back in the day just did like a hit piece. And it's like, man, like we're working so hard. And you have pulled facts out of context, wound it up. Like that hurts. Recently they did a positive piece, which was great. And a really good one. We couldn't have written it better. Like it was just lovely. And so we've learned to kind of grow a thicker skin. But I think when people don't see the vision, when you are pitching to big companies, to big organizations, and it's going well, this is amazing, but they ultimately walk away or copy or do something else. And you think like, man, like you don't see it. And I think that is hard. Maybe for chapter 2, I'll figure out how to talk about it. But I think sometimes what can hurt the most is when the people closest to you, they don't see it, or, it gets real hard. And I'd say as we scaled, we went through the early days where we fun little startup, and then we grew up and we tried to grow up. And in that process of trying to grow up and became big, a big world. And I think inside Thank You, it got hard. I mean, outside was hard, but inside was hard too. We got political. We weren't our best. We weren't who I think we needed to be to get Thank You to where it needs to go to. And that was a hard journey. Conversations, hard reflections of like leadership, my own leadership and journey. And I'd say some of that inside stuff has been really tough to work through, but it's made us stronger for what's coming.
Is that around about the time you wrote the Chapter 0 book for the internal? Was that
Yeah,
mostly for the
so
team, or-
interestingly, those who were following along, we wrote a book called Chapter 1, and we said all the profit would fund Chapter 2, The Future of Thank You. Chapter 0 is literally the book we never thought we'd write. So we went backwards to go forwards. And it's a good metaphor actually for every business owner and every person with an idea trying to make it a reality. There is so much backwards to go forwards. We literally went backwards in the writing, and that book Chapter 0 became about our values and our mission and a real grounding document. So this book is actually for everyone on the inside of Thank You. So when you join Thank You, either in our team or one of our partner businesses, and we have many, you get a copy, your copy of Chapter 0. It's kind of like you're welcome to Thank You, welcome to the team. In it, we've put it, the stuff we've got right, the stuff we've got wrong, the secrets we've discovered in building this, the values and our mission and our culture. And, I think that it's like a compass for us as we move forward. And when that compass isn't clear, I mean, everyone can turn up and do their best, but you can end up pulling in many different directions. And they say that if you, I think, leave America and you aim for Hawaii, but you're 1 degree off, you miss it.
Wow.
So you start out, we're not too far apart, and you end up starting out, or you end up a long way off. And so I think culture and values and that alignment at the beginning is so critical. Otherwise, as time goes on, you can end up a long way off.
Yeah, for sure. That's a really good concept. What's something that you just, obviously that's like a book or a document you've created, right, for your team and for yourself, I assume, but what's like maybe some of the principles that you go back to, like when you are going through these tough times, whether it's internal or external issues in the business? Like, is there a principle or a few that you're just like, I need to go back? Or like, when do you work it out yourself and like, I need to go find my path again? Or
so look, I think this is kind of easy to remember, but we start Chapter 0 with this concept of true north, which is really like your vision and mission. Like, where are we going? And they say in battle, the most important piece of information isn't the battle plan. Because the moment the battle kicks in and two armies are coming against each other, you can have an amazing plan, but then the real world kicks in. Your plan may be redundant within seconds. No. And so it's more important than that battle tactical plan is what is the overarching direction. In this case, it might be, here's the land we're trying to take. Okay, that's clear. Here's the current plan we have to get there. But if that falls apart, we're not going to stop finding a way to do that. And so I think often we're going back to true north, back to why, back to the vision. So that's part one. There's a great quote by Ron Disney, and it says, "It's not hard to make decisions when you know what your values are." And so for us, our values, which is that next layer from vision and mission, they're so critical that I know them, we know them, and that we have the courage to stick to them, and also that we call out when we don't. And that is very, very helpful, because I think, right now the world is becoming very disrupted again and again. 1 minute it's tariffs, the next it's AI and the threats and this and that, and COVID was crazy and the world shut down. But for us, what's consistent through every external crisis or internal crisis is those values. They don't change.
A lot of people get lost with this stuff. There's heaps of like resources out there. Yeah. Maybe I just need to read them more, but what's your take on this? Because there's values, there's mission, there's purpose, all that. And you just kind of, where do I start? How do I build that out? You just keep it simple, write one sentence down. Sometimes that feels nice. Or is it 2 pages long?
Yeah.
10 pages long?
Look, we've done everything you just said. We've tried it all. I would say get help with it. We've had help, and I can point you to some amazing people who've literally just come beside and say, hey, I'm going to help pull out the gold, help you land something. And I think that's been part of our process. We had words, like 1-word values, and they were good, and we're even talking about, do we need to go back to a word? But currently we have these 5 statements, little micro stories that I think ground us. So number 1 at Thank You, we forge bold new paths forward. That speaks to we will always look for a new path. That is the pioneering part of us. We find possible. That's our way of saying we'll be solutions focused. I actually think for pretty much every business owner, your main job, find possible. A cash flow, this issue, that, find possible, find possible.
Pay bills.
Yeah. We never walk alone. That speaks to the part of us that is we want to do this together.
That one's hard for me because I'm me and my wife run the business, but I'm not super comfortable having the idea of having a business partner or investors in that way. So when you say don't walk alone, is it business partnership, always have multiple people in there, or is it more just team of everyone on board?
I think the best way to figure this out is when you are facing some of your toughest decisions, or you're at a moment of man, I don't know what to do. I would just ask you, do you feel alone? Or is there someone you can call? That could be a mentor, could be a very close friend or confidant, could be a business partner, could be a co-founder, could be a team member. That's what we mean by don't walk alone.
Yeah, cool. So not necessarily you must have.
No, because you can have the most you can have the most amazing board structure. You could have 7 directors and you can still feel alone in that room.
That's so true, yeah.
So it's really a test of that. And I think the other part for us is we talk about, integrity is one word. Thank You, one of our values, we phrase it as we choose or always choose the light. We want to live in the light, not the dark. And there's a lot of business done in the grey. A lot. So for us, it's we're not going to do that. And that costs you something, and your values should cost you. In fact, I would say if we add up our revenue over 17 years, I would almost say that's the value of our values. The way to look at them, often we think values are a soft idea. Actually, not what you say your values are, what your values actually are.
Yeah.
That ends up being kind of the size and the sustainability of what you build.
That's so good. And so was that 5?
No, it was 4.
That was 4.
You
There was
got
one
me.
more.
We choose heart. So for us, heart is really about how we do it. So we talk about ego is our kryptonite. Humility is our posture. We want to do everything we do with heart, with passion. It's important to us how someone feels in a business interaction, in how they finish up at Thank You.
So good. Do you ever get overwhelmed with? It sounds like Thank You's a brand that wants to obviously bring a lot of change through its products, but then you're probably also thinking, well, also the team. We want the team to be stoked and proud to show up and feeling a part of something. We want our customers to be happy. We want our suppliers to be happy. And our business partners or whatever. There's a lot of people to try and maybe not please, but you want to try and do a good thing to all layers.
Yes.
Is there an element where there's tension in that, where it's no, actually I need to choose the customer first this time and the staff's unhappy, or I need to choose the raising funds for extreme poverty and it means everyone else is slaving it out and hating life? Is there a tension that you wrestle with? How do you do it all?
There are so many tensions. And in business, in leadership, in life, it is a series of tensions. The job is to figure out how to manage it and how not to break staff, customers, stakeholders, suppliers, because when it breaks, so you go beyond tension to that breaking point, you have a big problem.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think it's interesting. Thank You, not only do we have our own expectations, turns out everyone has expectations on us. So because we propose we're here to do good, everyone then layers their good on your good and expects you to be good on all fronts. It's a lot. In essence, it's good. It's fair enough.
Because it probably drives you a little bit harder to go, you know what, they've called us out on this thing we need to improve on, and let's try and...
But I think, perfection is not realistic. I read literally this morning, Patagonia. I forget the title. Wow, so good. And it was basically, we're not perfect. That was
cool.
The concept. And it was really an open letter about what they're not nailing and the gaps they have. And I think for all of us on all fronts, the goal should be, what step am I taking to improve? So improve that culture with team, improve relationship with customers, improve suppliers, improve supply chain. Now, if you're very binary, you're like, well, if we take that step, then directly, if we have a more ethical supply chain, really tough topic.
Yeah.
Really tough topic.
It's real for our industry and coffee as well. It's what does that exactly mean
Well,
is one question. But
sure.
Yeah.
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 And this is a big topic. So if you take a step to, let's get real basic, buy a more ethical product, which is going to be more expensive. If it's made, if in the process there's slaves and kids, and it'll be cheaper.
Always.
If it's more expensive, therefore one would say, well, there goes your profit. Can't do it. But actually that is not lazy answer is not even the right term. That is like the great lie.
Yeah.
And I think the job for all of us and those with courage who want to see a better world is to go, okay, I know I have to maintain profit, because in business, if you don't do that, there is no business. How can I take the next step? the next step here.
Yeah.
Also, no, I want to get to there. I know it doesn't add up, but I'm going to get to here. And then from here, I'm going to figure out how to get to there. Because ultimately, if you want to be built to last, I can tell you right now, if your business plan is all wet, we'll just use cheap slave labor. And you'll never say that. If your supply chain, it literally is that. I'd say one day, as some brands have seen, the brand comes crashing down.
Yeah. Refreshing to hear, because like I think for our industry, like I'm in the coffee industry, obviously it's all about supply chain, really. It's like we're essentially getting this product and then we're roasting it and we're selling it. And it's like this weird tension between, I need to survive, I need to pay bills, I need to make sure that there's a profit to have at the end of the year so I can keep growing my business and improving it and things like that, which is like a very real tension with, we should be paying farmers like 5 times the amount we're paying now, probably. Yeah. Like, that would be nice for them.
Yeah.
And actually, the whole system of how the coffee is even traded is actually built off kind of sketchy concepts of extracting from these origins, and the wealth is created in the consuming country. And you go, the more, I honestly, I thought doing specialty coffee, buying a bit higher grade quality is just going to change the world, and it's awesome and amazing. And the more I've looked into it, the more nuanced it is. Like, you can tick so many boxes of specialty coffee and it's just cool. But first of all, did they even get paid? Did they get paid on time? And did you kind of ghost them the next year? And, you know, there's like so much nuance to like respecting the person. And where I'm going with this is, I guess it's that tension of profit versus, it always seems to be quality is going to reward producers who are like paying for higher quality so that they're doing a better job of it and they're getting paid more, they're more profitable and everything. But doing that kind of makes you directly not as competitive with your competitors who are doing a lot of good marketing and have a really cool brand and are getting a lot cheaper stuff. So do you have that tension in your industry supply chain? It's a huge topic. We won't take the whole episode up with this, but like, is that very real for you as well? Or is it more just some industries, not all industries?
No, it's so real.
Yeah. Okay.
I think last night I was watching a video, I think the BBC posted this, of young African boys and men in cobalt mines, which is what's going into our phones, right? And into electric cars. And Pete, who's our head of impact, who is probably one of the people I respect the most of the journey I've seen, because he helps us wrestle with this, and it is such a tension, and it's on everything. Like recycled plastic. We're currently, transparently, we're talking about that internally, because we now have products that are 100% made from recycled plastic.
Awesome.
Great.
That's not easy.
Not easy, right? And we started out at 50, and then we're at 100. Couldn't get better than that, could you?
No.
Incredible.
101 would be nice. No, joking.
So here's an interesting point. Here's a conversation that no one's talking about. One of the main, so 60, we're looking at the stats, 62 to 69% of all recycled plastic globally is found by pickers, right? Which is essentially children or bonded or slave labor, right? And the average age that like a picker or someone who's stuck in this, I'm collecting rubbish, the average age for a male they live to is 37.
Wow.
So that'd be me now and dying because of the situation that I'm in. That's going into the recycled plastic, right?
See, some people have that kind of mentality. There's no point. You can't it's too much. I can't change anything anyway. I'll just get on with my life. And it's sad because you're like, well, you can actually.
Yeah.
I mean, the title of your book, you have the power to change stuff.
And you can.
Yeah.
You can change it. And this is what we're talking about right now about recycled plastic. We're like, man, like in Australia, APCO is saying that you need 50% of your products by 2030, I think, needs to be made from recycled plastic, 50% or more. So we're like working on that. You can get ethically sourced recycled plastic, or you can get plastic that hasn't come from one of these areas or bonded or safe, but it'll cost more. Now you've got to have that cost and the cost of recycled. We think it matters at Thank You. So we're going to wrestle, and we're wrestling with this. I mean, there's a million problems to wrestle with. And I think our job is not to, when I think about our job at Thank You, I'm like, our job is not to make everyone necessarily care, understand, and then go and wrestle with this. One of the lines that one of the amazing minds behind Thank You that's working on all of this came up with is, our job is to make change effortless.
I can just buy this awesome product and I want it anyway, and now I'm changing the world.
Yeah, but to do that, it means that behind the scenes, we have to be relentless. Relentless on the tension between, is the recycled plastic ethical or not? What level are we going to? Like, we're going to be relentless on all this to make change effortless. I think there is a job to be done by those who've got the courage to be leaders of change, to be relentless in the back end and make it as simple as you can for other people. And that, I think that is the big problem we're solving. I was at an event once in Sydney. This guy put his hand up. It's like social. Actually, it wasn't social. It was like an entrepreneur summit. This guy put his hand up and he's like, this was his question. It was along the lines of, one charity is hitting me up about homelessness. Then I got another issue about the oceans. And then my local koalas need saving, and my surf life saving club wants money. And now you need money to help poor people around the world. That was his sort of question comment.
Yeah.
And I said, I think you're feeling this charity cause fatigue. And I tried something. I didn't know if it would work, and thankfully it did. But I said, put up your hand in this room. If you woke up this morning thinking about how important it is that people with a disability in Zimbabwe get access to latrines that they can use. Not one hand went up. So put up your hand right now if you wash your hands today. And hundreds of people put up their hands and laughed. This is our job, is not to make you care about latrines that are disabled friendly in Zimbabwe. Our job is to make the best hand wash. By the way, we funded a project in Zimbabwe helping people with disability get access. And Deborah, one of the girls who was part of that program and one of the beneficiaries, she describes the day that her school got that as the best day of her life.
Wow. That's crazy.
So our job is to make the change effortless. Great hand wash, I'd use that. Perfect. In the back end, we'll work with a lot of amazing people to solve some pretty complex and interesting problems.
That's such a good way to look at it. And yeah, essentially a big essence of what this show's about is that let's talk to people who have built businesses like this and give some more just insight into all that, because I think there is a lot of people doing a lot of great work, and there's a lot of people with really great businesses bring some kind of social change or environmental change or whatever, and there's an opportunity to go, do I buy this one or do I buy that one? And a lot of people don't realize those dollars, whether it's $2 or $50 or $1,000, that's literally going to go to that company. Then that company's going to use that money in a different way than that company would use it, and then it's going to go down the supply chain, or it's going to go give it back to somebody. And that's where I assume you're going. That's where you're going with the whole, we have the power to change stuff with the dollars. Even if you don't have much money, you still have a choice of what you do with what you have, right?
Yeah. And look, we believe all business, not just Thank You, all business is a force for good, and it can be. And so it's funny, now we're talking about some of the challenges and how hard it is. At the beginning, we're talking about how do you find that sense of purpose. I would say to people, if you're a business owner listening, you can do more. Yeah. And in that, it'll be hard, but deeply rewarding. And it may not ever be public. I think some of our biggest wins are not really public. Yeah. And many of them we may never even know. But I think, I think it changes you on the inside when you get up to
Yeah.
solve problems like this, not just go, how can I extract more money from my suppliers and my customers so I could buy another car?
You hear a lot about these billionaires, millionaires, whatever. They get their arrival goal
Yeah.
and they're not happy.
They're
And you
not.
go, do you think that having a different approach to business, maybe it means you don't get as rich? Maybe it means you pay a little bit more money for your suppliers, maybe some more money to your wages, give more value to your customers, whatever. But having that, oh, this is exciting to show up to. I feel good about this. I feel good about the business I'm building. Do you think that would bring like that person, maybe they still make $1 million, $1 billion? Will that bring that kind of satisfaction more, do you think?
I mean, you would think so.
Yeah.
You would hope so.
Yeah,
you would
yeah.
hope it would, the way you got your money, would make an impact on your life. But I do think that the world goes through these different sort of cycles, and I think there's probably a shake-up coming to the current kind of capitalist model. And there was some, Peter Thiel in the US just made a very interesting comment, and it was a critique, I think, of media, and it was a critique of politicians and wealthy people and the way that they are handling young people's critique of capitalism. Because they're
Right.
basically saying...
It's pushing back, or?
Well, people are pushing back saying, hey, this... And the reason they're pushing back is that this system's not working for us at all. Like, housing, unaffordable, cost of living crisis, where we feel stuck. Others are doing it even harder. Some people are winning. Right? And so you have a system that isn't working. And so Peter Thiel's critique was basically saying there's going to be a big push to socialism and a whole bunch of other stuff. And interestingly, when you look at Thank You, we are a check to capitalism. So our business model completely operates on capitalism.
Yeah.
But it's like we have these guardrails. So we're still 100% for profit, chasing profit, optimizing, but our guardrails are this concept of how we're looking after the supply chain, customers, what are we doing with our profits? And it kind of helps keep us in check. And I would say that will be one of the marks of businesses and leaders that are built to last. The ones that kind of took a rape and pillage approach,
Yeah.
but then made heaps of money. I don't think it's going to stand the test of time. And I don't know how kindly history is going to look on that.
This is gold. You're channeling a lot of money into ending extreme poverty.
Yeah.
That must make it a little bit harder to pay the bills. You said innovation comes from limited resources.
Scarcity,
Yeah.
limitation.
And I see it a lot in the small business environment, this victim mentality of like what you said before, woe is me, this is hard, everyone's out to get me, the tax man, the bills, the suppliers are going up, customers want a discount. And I've been in that, honestly, I've been in that headspace before, and sometimes it's just not fun. It's not fun anymore. Is it just that you're creative and you're just going to do it that way anyway? Or is it literally, I don't have the money, I'm going to do this?
I mean, okay, unpack a few parts of that, because I think the victim mentality, and we can all slip into it, that is the death of ideas, vision, changing, and businesses. It's either a fast death or a slow death.
Yep.
And the world changes really through optimism and through wondering. And so the challenge, particularly when your nature might be a bit more pessimistic, is actually to work on this skill of optimism and literally finding the positive and looking for hope. That's most of what we do. That literally it is. Look, I'm grateful for my dad and mum. I grew up in an environment where they would always look for the positive. My dad is the most positive person you will ever meet. Like growing up, some of my friends thought, is he for real? It's a true story. He had a job, and at this particular role, there were protesters protesting their organization. And my dad's the loveliest guy ever. And he's driving to this event. He knows there's protesters and there's going to be police. This sounds really hectic. Anyway, as he's walking there, there's this lady, older lady. She seemed a bit lost. And Dad's like, it's at night. He's like, hey, are you okay? Do you need help? And she's like, oh, yeah, I'm trying to get to this protest. Do you know where it is? And Dad's like, I do. And he took her to it. right? And then he walked in, and I'm like, that is my dad 100%. He genuinely, he's there to help other people, and no matter what that looks like. It's really important because the world is hard, and at times it feels like it's getting even darker. And business is hard, and it's never been harder, and the kind of the overall sentiment is getting heavier and heavier and heavier. The survival and opportunity is found in leaders and in businesses and teams going, we've got to find the hope. We've got to find a path forward. And our story is found in not leaning into the victimhood. And here's a classic. For 5 years, Coles and Woolworths said no. We pitched every way you could.
That's a long time.
Play out half a decade.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Half a decade of like, you'd meet with a category manager, or you'd try a marketing manager, or try in the CSR department. We even had connections through to like executives. We tried everything. 5 years of no's. You could say we tried our best. You could say, well, the market's not ready, or whatever. We wondered, but how could we get in? And we listened, which is the key. When you have issues come your way, you have to listen for the gold. There might be a lot of dirt, and if you're into gold mining, you know the dirt to gold ratio is high. But you're looking for the gold. And the gold thread in all of the no's was essentially this one problem, which is probably fair enough. They liked our vision, they liked our mission, they thought we were lovely. We had good passion. It's a bit, you're up against the biggest brands who invest millions and tens of millions of dollars in campaigns, launch campaigns, annual marketing campaigns. You don't have the money. So for them, they're like, it is a risk to put you on shelf because it takes a lot of money and a lot of organizing to put it on shelf. If it doesn't work, there's a real risk.
Yeah.
So then we were like, well, how could we remove that risk? We'll never have the money. And along came this idea called the Coles and Woolworths campaign, which came from
it recently. It was good.
Came from the gold, the problem they put forward. So we launched a video on YouTube and we said, hey, everybody, we've booked a meeting 2 weeks from today with Coles and Woolworths. For 5 years have said no, but in 2 weeks' time when we go back in, we need you to come with us.
That's not long. 2 weeks.
It's not long. We need you to tell them if they stock thank you products that you would buy it.
Yeah.
So that was the premise of the launch video. We showed people our products, our food range, our body washes and hand washes, and our water range. And we asked people to petition. For 2 weeks, people hit Coles and Woolies Facebook pages relentlessly. It was amazing. Asking for the product.
And there was, I just read about this in chapter 1, and there was like rappers and musicians.
People sung, danced, rapped. It was beautiful. And then
so
2 helicopter pilots donated their time. They flew these 20,000 square foot signs. One said, Dear Coles. The other said, Dear Woolworths. Thank you for changing the world, in brackets if you say yes. So we circled those head offices, and that was bold.
Yeah.
We had a donor pay for the sign. And even that, like we said to the donor, we have this idea, but we have no money to do it. And it turns out the only sign that's legally allowed to fly over residential is this one particular sign. And it cost 50 grand to make them, two of them.
Yeah, right.
So it's not cheap.
It's not like, here's $50, mate. I'll help
so
you
we
out.
ended up
It's
getting those
serious
signs
donations.
donated. So they covered the money, and you don't even get to keep the sign. It's unbelievable. But we found a way. Long story short, media cover. We had about 120 media features, and then Coles and Woolworths both said yes. So we land. Some online called it collectivism, said it will never translate into sales, but it did. Right? Our hand wash, everything blew up. It was incredible. But for 5 years, we could have been not even victims, just like, that's it. Yeah, it's wisdom. You know the market's not ready and walk away.
Just be persistent. Just, keep hoping for that right moment, and all the best. But you've clearly just gone, let's go big or go home.
Yeah, because we're mission-led.
Yeah, exactly.
We need this. With all due respect to them, that's where Australians shop. And if they're not on board, we can't. We have a problem.
Yeah, they're the gatekeepers.
We have to go.
Yeah. It's clear to me that you're good at building a brand and a movement. Getting that many people to do something is not easy. Is it the way you communicate it? Like there's the mission, obviously, which is compelling. But there's a lot of missions out there that don't get traction like that. There's a lot of people that, are just constantly trying to get their thing going or whatever. Like, what do you reckon's the secret sauce? What's the secret recipe to just like getting people on board? Because I'm assuming, like we mentioned before, your team's on board. You have all these future customers, potential customers that are just like writing on Coles and Woolies Facebook pages. Like, what's the secret sauce for that?
So I think the answer is, and my hope and goal is to become a better storyteller. And storytelling is in part the secret. Storytelling is, I think, often viewed as like a soft skill. Like, kids, they're telling stories, or you read a story to your kids at night. Like, it's a soft thing. But storytelling, and it even sounds crass to say this, it is the greatest weapon in the world. In fact, if we looked at war, there's not all the weapons against all the other weapons. It's two stories, often told by two storytellers.
And getting people to act.
And the greatest weapon is the story. And you can add other things behind it. And so stories can literally, and how they're told, destroy the world and rip it apart. Stories can also make the world, and they can create that better path forward. And it's interesting, like, take a business example. Let's get away from war for a minute. Toyota v Tesla. Two stories, two storytellers. Elon Musk, to his credit, is a very good storyteller. And when Tesla had, I think it was 100,000 cars produced, they were 10 times the value of Toyota that had 10 million cars a year being sold.
Because he was telling a story
And
of the future, is it?
Yeah, and people bought into that story and bought into the potential and bought into everything it could be. And so the difference between those two things is literally story, and not just what you say, but what you put behind what you say. And so the way we think about it, I think we need to get better at not just articulating the story, but everything we build behind it. And so I would say your supply chain and everything you think about and wrestle with actually all becomes strength of that story you're looking to tell. And next year, publicly, we'll tell another very public story of something that we've relentlessly worked on for 5 years that we hope changes a lot for Australians and really helps us in this country, but ultimately helps really the forgotten and those living in extreme poverty. And so we'll present that story. And my hope is on that day we do the articulation in that video or platform will really resonate. And so that means we have to be really good at the craft of how we articulate. But we have to be really good at building the integrity behind the story, because that is the story.
Yeah, if you don't have the confidence in what you've built, telling the story is going to come through as like this wishy-washy, I can't really say that properly because it's only half done. Is there an element of it needs to be tight and solid, so I'm confident to go tell that story?
Yeah, and the conviction of the Coles and Woolies campaign wasn't because we stumbled across a cool sentence and a paragraph. I'm like, oh, that'd be funny. It came from a deep place of 5 years of no, and listening, and then pulling the gold thread out and being like, maybe the story we need to tell to help them remove the risk is that when we turn up at the next meeting, we say, oh, you know that thing you keep saying about you're not sure if people will buy it? They just said they would. Yeah. And a lot of them. Yeah. And then laid into that was another story, which wasn't an explicit story, but laid into it was FOMO, fear of missing out. Yeah. So this wasn't the Coles campaign, and this wasn't the Woolworths campaign. This was the Coles and Woolworths campaign, which implies in that story someone might win, someone might lose. Yeah. And in this case, they both won. They both took it. And IGA jumped on board and took it too, and it was amazing.
Yeah, so good. Yeah, wow. So there's a lot of people want to change. They want to bring change through their business. They want to, or maybe just even in their personal life, they want to do something. But I guess like being selfish here for myself and other people in my boat. Yeah. I want to change a lot about my industry. I want to change a lot about how business is done as we know it. What would you tell me to do? As far as like building, maybe in relation to like building a movement. So, because I often, sometimes I'm frustrated, to be honest, where I'm like, they don't get it. And it's like, I'm trying here and I'm building this thing, but they don't see it. And I honestly, I'm not a genius marketer. It's all been an organic word of mouth, slow burn.
Yep.
Like, what would you advise me to do? Is like, I want to build a movement around bringing change to the
Yep.
supply chain and things like that.
Okay, so few thoughts. It's funny, like they don't get it. Did you tell them?
Probably not.
Right.
Thanks.
And so like without
Yeah,
vision,
common sense kicking in now. Yeah.
without vision, people perish, right?
Yeah.
And so people need to know like what's this vision we're building towards? And people follow people before they follow brands and ideas. They're like, hang on, the person. What? And so I would say for you, it's literally as hard and as simple as you write that vision down, and it may be clunky. Maybe you can't get help from anyone because you're like, don't have time, I don't have resource, so I'm just going to write down the change I want to see in the industry. The next step, you write a list of the things and then some of that list is scary. Some will take like a week. Like actually ask that supplier, where do you get that from? Or could I get some visibility on that thing? That might take a week or a month. And then you might be like, number 10, ensure every element of the supply chain is above fair trade standard or whatever it is. And that might take you a lifetime or a decade or 5 years. You have your list, you have your vision, and then I would just say communicate it.
Yeah.
Take people on the journey of where you want to get to.
Just live, authentic. This is
I
the
reckon.
journey.
Yeah. And live might be live to your team. It could be even more private than that. Might be just something like, you know what, as a couple, here's the vision, here's the roadmap. If you're like, no, I want to engage more than just us on this, then I would be telling those people. And that could start with the team in the organization, and you're repeating the vision, the progress you're making, and where you want to get to.
Yeah.
And then from a public perspective, in fact, next year, as they were launching this next thing, it's also a moment to update. Everyone, here's why we started and where we're heading. Here's the progress we've made. Here's the gap. But here's the next bit we need your help with. And I think it's good to ask people to invite them to write with you. So in this story, this problem you see, invite people to write with you. We all want to be part of writing better stories for the world.
Yeah, that's good. And I guess there's like an element of learning how to tell stories and communicate, because there's one side of it where people get almost a little bit crafty and misleading and greenwashing. And then there's the other side where people are like, this is the data, look at the truth, it sucks. And you're like real heavy, like it's all about data or transparency and showing all this stuff. And everyone's just like, whoa, bro, like I'm just trying to live my life. Like I don't need to read about that price that was paid on that day versus the fair trade. There's this stuff. So I guess there's an art to communicating, right? Where it's like, it's truthful, it's integral, but it's actually moving as well. And that's where I can see you've built, like you've obviously learned that skill, or did you just always have the knack?
I'm not sure, but I'm definitely working on it.
Yeah.
I'm always, I think I've realized like, man, like this is so important. The ability to articulate your idea, to better articulate it, to say it in less words. So there are literally tools and courses and great people you can learn from, and I would encourage you. I think storytelling is one of the most understudied things to work on. I would encourage working on that. And I love learning about storytelling. I love sharing with others about some of the things I've learned along the way. But I think the story you are telling is also only as good as what you're building behind it. Yeah. That's where the smoke and mirror greenwash thing, that is where I think the best story is always the true story. Yeah. So I told you before, we are talking in Thank You right now about this issue live on, slave and bonded labor in recycled plastic. It's in all of our stuff. Yeah. Your stuff, our stuff. Like, what?
That's heavy.
That's heavy. It's very raw. It's authentic.
And it's like open. Sometimes it just hits you like new information, and you're just like, okay, we have to do something about that. I guess storytelling, the words initially were like, oh, that means you're just telling a good story, but that's sometimes no substance. But I think, like you said, if it's truthful, it's solid, it's backed up, and it's integral, like you've done the hard work, then tell the story. It's more powerful. And do you think there's an element of like people pick up your story by what you do rather than even if you don't say it? Because I've had situations before where someone was like, oh, it's so good that you do this and that because you care about this. And I was like, never really said that, but they pick that up through my product or
Mm-hmm.
somewhere along the way. I'm sure I've said it in some kind of marketing, but like there's,
Yeah, no, I think the great trap is to run to marketing, to run to external comms.
Yeah.
And often, even in purpose, we talk at Thank You about purpose isn't the paint on the outside, it's the fuel on the inside.
Yeah.
And it's what drives you. It's what drives you and your team. And so I think it's very, very, very critical to make sure the story is good on the inside and you're improving it and you're learning to tell it and tell it better. You go the other way around, we all know those stories. They at an extreme, they're a scam and a fraud. And you end up in prison. So that's the extreme end. But just edging away from that, you're a phony, you're a fake, you don't have integrity, you build a house of cards and one day it falls. And I don't think anyone aspires to be in that category.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a story I've wanted to tell for years. Take this new launch for us, 5 years. I've wanted to tell it from the day we stumbled across it, but we're not ready to tell it because literally we're not ready. It's not built. And even though we're building, and those came from we're road testing it and we're checking it, it's got to be really good and really solid. But we're still, hopefully next year, I've said next year, we are launching it, but man.
Can I write down the date?
Yeah, we have a date. Oh,
cool.
But I'm classic on launch dates and they take longer because the story's not right.
Yeah.
And we want to tell a story that we can bank the house on.
Yeah, so good. Yeah, and I think that's where you can get the confidence to tell the story, right? Because you feel like you feel a little bit like this is not really sort of, I'm just going for it, or saying something like I've always felt like I can't. When something's not worked out, when do you stop though? Because if you haven't worked something out, which there's a lot of grey area in business, as you know, in supply chains and things like that. I always had this, I can't talk about because it's not sorted, it's not perfect, or it's is there an element of totally. This is good and this is bringing good change, and leaving the tension of leaving, not every stone is turned. So
yeah, and I think and it's tricky because that example I gave is about a product that we're building that we haven't revealed, but I also think even in this, I'm sharing the story of supply chain and hey, here's what we're discovering in recycled plastic, an issue we thought was, that's good for the world. But I'm literally sharing the story of actually we're discovering there's some problems with it. And our job is to take the next step to get better and to learn about the issue, try and find a solution. And so I think you can take people on the journey. We haven't got it all sorted or solved. We're really uncovering the problem. Yeah. It's actually shocking. It's shocking that no one's talking about
that's being truthful and being integral by just sharing that openly, I guess. Like what Patagonia. I haven't read that, but
exactly right. Yeah. So I think having the courage to, whether it's good coffee, asterisks, great flavor, great this, great that, great this, good grip on first tier supply chain, average grip on second tier supply chain, black hole on third tier supply chain. We're working on it to one day have not just good coffee, but great coffee. I don't know. It tastes good. Oh, yep. Oh, man, how do I feel about that? Thank you for your transparency. Good that...
It builds trust, right?
It builds trust, but it also puts the fire under your own feet to be what about the second tier, third tier? Beyond that, are we just going to pretend that's not a thing?
Yeah.
But we're drinking it every day, or we're living it, or we're washing our hands with it every day.
And huge. Wow. Yeah. Maybe it's a bit more personal now, but how do you for example, maybe the Coles and Woolies campaign, there's probably a bunch of other things that you've had to wrestle with this, but how do you not let it eat you up? Business is hard. Huge risk. Told me multiple times, thank you's almost been taken out. You're in this weird tension waiting for an answer on something, or it doesn't always get solved that day. You've got weeks, you've got a family. How do you wrestle with that tension? Do you have a technique to just shut that off and I can relax now, or are you just tweaking all night?
No, it's a very good question. So now I've built in many different practices that help, and boundaries to help with this. And I don't always get this perfect, but one of my amazing people that has helped me not walk alone has been a great counselor, great psychologist. And I think I booked one session with him in 2018 or 19. And I literally thought, I don't need this. I'm not broken. I'm tough. I'm not. And in chapter 2, I'll talk about how it got to that. It was dark and it was heavy. It was so heavy and so dark. And Justine's like, no, I think you should probably just talk to someone. And in that conversation, it was beautiful. I mean, he hit me on the spot. He actually said, I don't usually say this in the first session. And I think it's because he knew I wasn't coming back. I kind of said to him, I said, look, man, I think I have a fear of failure. And he said, I don't think you have a fear of failure. Through what you've described and some of the questions you've answered, he said, I think you have a fear of rejection.
Whoa.
You're afraid of people rejecting you. And I cried, man. It was like something switched inside me. And that began the series of a many-year conversation that was actually super deep. Because some of the stuff that will keep you awake the most intrinsically linked to the stories you tell yourself about, in my case, others and how they see me.
Yeah.
So that's part of it. But also he gave me some really practical tools. Like he said, before you go from work into family life, you have to have a transition. He goes, I do not care even if it's 30 seconds, but you have to have a transition. Because if you go straight in, it's not good for your family, it's not good for you, it's not good for anything. And so even if it's have a quick shower and like just something that breaks you, go for a walk, take a longer drive, whatever it is for you, you need to have a transition. I literally do this thing where I have if there's a lot of challenges or opportunities I'm thinking about, I'm very literal. I literally hand that over. I'm like, all right, I go through this process. I don't always have time to do it because sometimes it's just like baby or toddler, but I will try and go, all right, that problem, and I'm handing it. And for me, there's a step of faith in this. I feel like this is not all about me, and I'm leaving it in better hands than what I could do just by stewing on it all night, anxiety building. But you have to have a process, and that has helped me. Yeah. Literally offload before I go and focus on family, be the best I can there, and then I'll go pick it up at maybe 4 a.m. the next morning, 5 a.m. I'll get up early and I'm going to solve a problem. But I'm going to aim to get a good sleep, which is hard when you got young kids, but I'm going to get good sleep. Yeah. Justine and I working together for many years. Yeah. We learnt to have a rhythm where we would talk about work. And before we had kids, we'd drive home. When the garage door went down, that was the moment where we could no longer talk about work.
Very practical.
Very. Has to have a trigger.
It's like the physical, some people talk about like in the NLP world, the neuro-linguistic program, like there's a physical trigger to switch your mindset. And so essentially sounds like you've baked that into your routine. Habit. And it's hard. We have one day a week, usually a Sunday, sometimes Saturday, where we will have literally no work and we will not even talk about thank you. You can say thank you to someone. You can be polite, but basically we've banned the word outside of being polite. Like there's no, and that is like a weekly mental reset every week, as well as daily reset. Without that, it'd be too much. Yeah, just otherwise it just keeps going and you bring it home and you bring it through your sleep and then you drag it into the next morning and you're probably almost not as impactful as well, right?
You're definitely not.
At work.
You're definitely not.
Yeah.
And you have to fight for rest, and you have to be as good at resting as you are at sales or problem solving. Like you have to get as good at that switch off, and I think we forget that. Here's all the things I've got to really nail, and then get as much rest as you can. If you're not very good at this will not last.
And when you say you physically hand it over at the end of the day, do you mean like physically writing it down in
someone
a journal?
comes and collects it. No.
What are you giving? No.
So
you're writing it in a journal? Or
actually, counselors like, you could write it down in a journal. So journaling's a great way to do it. I rarely have time for that. It sounds lovely. I don't have time. So literally in my, I will either just in my mind, just hand it over, or sometimes I will literally, if I'm having a shower, I'd literally just, I'm like, all right, I'm handing that over. I'm I've got to get that out of my head. And I'm going to come back to it and write a list. In fairness, I probably do this more. I just write a list of all the things that are worrying me or I'm concerned or thinking about. I'm like, great, it's there. I won't forget it. Also, I have notes on my phones in the middle of the night when I do have that thought like, oh man. Instead of thinking about it, I put it straight down in the notes, and then that's it.
And your mind can rest.
It's captured.
Yeah, so good. And even just wrapping up the end of your day, I've found that when I do it, I need to get better at this. But like, whenever I've spent that extra 15 minutes to just, what's all the things that I'm niggling in my mind right now? Might be it's just writing a to-do list or writing a little paragraph, and I've got to solve this big problem, whatever. I feel so much better when I get home. But so many times I'm like, no, I've got to finish this thing. Go home and I'm like, ticking over like, oh yeah, that's right, I've got to be present, family, So yeah, no, it's really good, really helpful practical advice. It's been so good. We've gone over a lot, and I'm super grateful to have this conversation. Like I said, you've been a huge influence in me in business, going like, how do we bring change? Like watching you pioneer and be at the forefront of that, and building that kind of movement has been really cool to watch. And so grateful to have this full circle moment where I'm like, bought that book when I was kind of new to business, and then now I'm like, oh, I'm having a chat in our coffee roaster. This is cool.
Yeah.
And extracting your brain full of wisdom. So I appreciate you coming out, man. And I want to just wrap up by just touching a little bit on, what should we all do? Like, say we have the power to change stuff. What would you tell the everyday punter? Maybe maybe it's a tough life. Maybe it's cost of living pressures, family, barely have time to think about stuff, don't have time to look into that charity, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that person's situation, what would you tell them? Like, they have a little bit of a niggle, I want to do something meaningful or purposeful, or I want to change something. What would you tell those people?
So I would say that we greatly underestimate the impact we can have. And there's a great illusion. So take the billionaire, for example. We would think, man, the billionaire, they can do so much. And they can do a bit, and they probably should, and some are and some aren't. Here's an interesting thing I learned. So someone once told me this. Let's say I gave you $1 every second. Have a guess how long it would take for you to have $1 million. $1 every second. Just first thought. You don't have to get it right. Just first
4 months. No.
Not bad. It's 8 days.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Okay,
$1 every second.
Yeah, do you want to
let's do it. Yeah, I will run out in 10 minutes.
I'll give it back to your charity. It's all good.
So $1 every second is 8 days.
Yeah.
I should have told you that, give you an anchor. Guess how long it would take if I gave you $1 every second for you to have $1 billion.
I'm going to say a year.
Yeah, and this stumps a lot of people.
Yeah. I guess right.
32 years.
32 years. Right. Yeah, that does stump me a little bit.
Guess how long it would take if I gave you $1 every second to get to $1 trillion?
Sheesh. I'm going to say, it's going to be way more than that. It's going to be beyond my lifetime, isn't it?
Let's just say way more.
Yeah.
The problem with million, billion, trillion is it rhymes. So we think, million, billion, trillion.
Yeah, you went from million to billion. Good on you.
$1 every second to get to $1 trillion is 32,000 years.
Wow. It's a long time.
So 32,000 years. So I think when I said at the beginning, collectively we spend $83 trillion a year on stuff.
Yeah.
There is so much money in us as the consumer. The concept that we've got is like, hey, the purchase you make in your weekly supermarket shop, in whatever product you buy for your family, you can make, and together we can make a remarkable difference. Yeah. So even just in your spending, that's one spot you can make a difference. On top of that, I think often we go, I don't have lots of money to give. If you have a little bit of time, you could volunteer locally. You could help someone out. These small steps add up to big change. Thank you is a big story, but really, it's 2 helicopter pilots who are like, I could do 1 flight for free. Through to, you bought this book. The profit that we made from that has helped fund our future. We've raised $2.6 million from the book, which is lots of little bits of people's money going, I'll chip in, I'll buy a copy. Together we've made millions that can fund the future of what we do. And so the collective difference we can make. Yeah. And so we've got to remove this idea of like, I can't do much. To like, well, if I do my bit and you do yours, that's how the world changes. And to not use the Illuminati sign, but that we often think like, okay, the triangle, the way the world works is the few at the top have all the power and they're the ones that can make or change anything. When the reality is it's down the bottom, the many. And look, thank you. We're trying to tell a story that flips the system for good, that really empowers the mass consumer to make change effortless.
Yeah.
I think if you're sitting here feeling overwhelmed, I would say, I know that feeling. I was 19. The idea was interesting, but I had no money, no experience. Turns out that's okay. But I had enough to take a step to ask someone, do you want to help? And that's what I've kept doing for 17 years.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah, so good. And then someone who's got a business, they're just like, oh, I can't do anything with my business. It's just a trade business, or it's just, or maybe it's like, I've got a product business, but I've got no margin and it's tough. I can't do anything. Like, is there an element of like your concept? You got the charitable trust structure.
Yep.
It's very different to like the everyday company business. But like, what would you say? Like, do you believe that these businesses also can bring that same kind of change? And it is as simple as the small things. You know, it's easy to fall into this space of like, what can I do? I've just got a tough business to run and there's no margin. It's really hard. And the tax man, blah, blah, blah. Like, what can the small business do?
So I would say small businesses, you are and we are the backbone of this economy. And so there is so much you can do literally just by employing people, employing more people at a core level. But if you dare to let yourself ask the question, what more could I do? You're gonna discover a whole world. Maybe you swap out one ingredient. Cool. It may not make a huge difference, but you are unlocking a next step. Maybe you have 1,000, 10,000 people a day come through your store or whatever, and you could be like, we could just put up a notice board. We could just put cool initiatives that local community doing. That won't affect my margin. I can put that there. I have stumbled across and met many great people who help other people with this exact same problem. So there's Alana, and she's doing this amazing thing called Pro Purpose. So thank you. We're owned by a charitable trust we set up. You might be like, I don't even know where to start. Pro Purpose is a movement. They plug into small businesses and help them. If you want to give a small percentage of your money and join Pro Purpose, they literally help you with everything. All the giving, who to give to, how to communicate well. It's like a plug-in.
Yeah.
Like one little group like that. And like Pro Purpose are amazing. There are many others out there. But I would say the moment you let yourself look, you're going to discover small steps collectively create big change.
So good. That's awesome. And the future sometimes can look bleak for people,
Yep.
but sometimes can look, you seem to have a very hopeful look at the future. What do you want to be telling your great grandkids? Know how far we're going out. Let's say 50 years. Let's fast forward 50 years. Like, what's the world look like in 50 years in Dan's mind? Ideally.
I mean, I think because of humanity, there's always going to be challenges, but there is always hope. And hope is like light. And in the great battle of darkness and light, light wins. And so I think no matter what the world looks like, could be a utopia and we solved all the problems. It could be worse than it is today. But even in that, always look for hope and fight for it. And
That's like the can do versus the can't do in the everyday little thing as well, isn't it? Oh, I could do this. Oh, I can change that.
correct.
Yeah. So good. Thanks, bro. Thanks for your time. I appreciate
Thanks for
you.
having me.
It's going to be good. It's going to be good when I have you back next, is what I was going to say.
Perfect.
Yes, let's come back and do it again because
That's good.
I want to hear all about chapter 2 when it's out. Awesome. Thanks, bro.
Thanks, brother.
Hey, so we started this podcast out of a desire to build a community around these conversations. So if you know somebody that would really enjoy listening to this show, please share it to them. It makes a huge difference. Thank you.